What about your wallet? Did they take your wallet, too?
Oh, no, just the sample case. I guess they were in a hurry, didn't want to spend a lot of time there in the street in broad daylight or something.
Oh, I see.
As soon as they left, I started looking around for a cab and had to walk a couple of blocks before I found one. And then I got him to bring me right here.
Mm-hmm. What kind of a car did they drive, do you know?
The fellows that robbed me?
That's right.
Sedan. I think it was black. A Ford.
Mm-hmm. Did you get the license?
No, I didn't even think of trying that until after they were out of sight.
Well, now, can you describe these men for us, please?
Well, sure. Well, they were about 40, medium-sized. George had black hair. And the other fellow, he had sort of sandy hair, you know?
I see. Any marks or scars?
I don't think so.
How were they dressed?
Suits. Conservative. Blue or kind of gray, maybe. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Were they wearing the same clothes this morning?
Well, no, I don't know. They had on top coats today.
I see.
Now, you said their names were George and Paul.
Yeah, that's right.
Anything else that might help us identify them?
Gosh, I'm afraid not.
Do you have a list of serial numbers from your watches?
Well, yes.
May we see it?
Yeah, it's in my wallet. Yeah, just a minute. There you go.
Oh, thanks very much. I'll get out a circular, Joe.
Okay.
Is there anything else you want from me?
Yes, sir. We'd like to have you show us the bar where you met these men.
Well, no, sir, I'm not sure I can. A lot of bars in the neighborhood, and I didn't pay too much attention.
Mm-hmm. You said they had a combo there?
Yeah.
Well, that ought to make it easier.
Well, I'll sure do my best.
Yes, sir.
I have to get my airline ticket changed, too.
We'd appreciate it if you could stay over a couple of days.
Oh?
In case we turn them up, we'll need you to identify them.
Well, there isn't much chance of that, is there?
How do you mean?
Well, the descriptions I gave you could be anybody.
Yeah.
Besides, the company will want me back on the job. That is, if they don't fire me for this.
Well, you know, you aren't the only thing they'll want back.
Huh?
They'll want those watches, too. Frank and I checked the M.O. and the descriptions Russell Liggins had given us with the stats office. They came up with 11 possibles. We took the names to R&I and pulled the packages. Liggins was unable to identify any of the mug shots. 10:13 a.m., we cruised the vicinity of the Greystone Hotel looking for the bar where Liggins had first met the suspects. He told us the Green Hat Cafe on 6th Street seemed familiar, but he wasn't certain. We left him in the car and we went inside to interview the bartender.
Look, you boys know me. I run a nice, clean place. Don't even cut the liquor.
Yeah, sure.
I ain't caused you no trouble. Why don't you lay off?
Just a couple of questions for you, Sam.
Sure. A couple of questions. Next thing I know, I'm testifying in court.
You got something you ought to testify about?
No, of course not. I'm just talking.
Well, then talk to us, huh?
Okay. What do you want?
You on the job here last night?
Yeah.
All evening.
All evening. I got a little combo working in the joint now. They cost money. There's nothing left over for extra bartenders.
You see that fellow out in the car?
Where?
Out over here, Sam. Lean over. See? Out there.
Yeah, I see him.
Take a good look at him.
All right, I look good.
He ever been in your place?
Like when?
Last night.
The bar was real crowded last night. Music helps the business.
Mm-hmm.
He might have been here.
Well, yes or no, Sam?
Yeah, he was here.
Alone?
Yeah, he came in alone.
Mm-hmm.
He took that stool over there, had a few drinks, and left.
Mm-hmm. Did you talk to anybody?
He talked to me.
What'd he say?
He liked the music, that's about all.
Who else he talked to?
A girl sitting next to him.
Who was she?
Well, I don't know her name. She comes in once in a while, kind of nice looking.
There were a couple of men in here, too, weren't there, Sam?
Well, there were a lot of guys. Why?
Well-dressed, middle-aged?
Could be.
They talked to him, too, did they?
The fella in your car?
Same guy, yeah.
Well, if they did, I didn't see him.
Had quite a conversation.
I didn't hear it. Music's pretty loud.
Who were they, Sam?
Look, I don't ask for a driver's license unless the guy looks like he's under
Come
21.
on, Sam. Who are they?
He's conning you. That friend of yours out there.
Yeah.
End stool, that's where he sat.
Uh-huh.
The girl was next to him the whole evening.
Well?
He couldn't have talked to nobody else.
We took Liggins into the Green Hat Cafe, and he said he was certain that was where he had met the two men known as George and Paul. Sam Hupple, the owner of the bar, was equally certain that Liggins was mistaken. 10:48 a.m. Frank and I drove Liggins over to the Greystone Hotel. While he went inside to re-register, we talked with the cab drivers who were stationed at the stand next to the main hotel entrance. One of them told us he had been parked there from about 6:30 until 7:15 a.m. that morning.
Thought I was never going to give me a fare. When it starts like that, the whole day's shot. Look at me now. Been sitting here for the last 25 minutes.
Did you see a man come out of the hotel about 5 minutes to 7?
I was watching those doors real anxious. If he came out, I saw him.
Same fellow we just let off.
Oh,
You remember him?
sure.
Did you notice the car he drove off in?
You kidding?
What do you mean?
This hack of mine.
Huh?
He was my first fare this AM.
You picked him up here.
That's right. Wasn't 5 or 7, though. Closer to 7:30.
Where'd you take him?
City Hall.
We went into the hotel and talked to the desk clerk. He told us that Liggins had been assigned the same room he had previously occupied, 417. He also told us that he was almost positive Liggins had not carried a sample case when he checked out that morning. We talked to the bellhop who had brought down Liggins' baggage. He said Liggins had only one suitcase. 11:13 a.m. Frank and I went up to room 417.
Come in. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's very kind of you. Oh, I'll be with you as soon as I get off the phone.
It's okay.
Yes, sir. Well, a day or two, I guess, if that's all right. No, they didn't take my money. Thanks, I can manage. Oh, just one thing. Would you ask one of the girls to call my wife and explain the delay? Oh, thank you very much, sir. Bye. Well, I was just talking to the boss in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Says it's all right for me to stick around a few days.
Good.
Now, you really think you can find those guys that fast, huh?
Well, we may not have to look for them.
What do you mean?
We've been checking your story, Liggins.
Yeah?
Leaks like a sieve.
Oh, that lousy bartender, huh? You taking his word against mine?
No, we got more than the bartender.
Oh?
The cab driver says he picked you up here at 7:20 and drove you down to City Hall.
Well, he's crazy.
You can have it in person.
He must have picked up somebody who looks like me, that's all.
We talked to the bellhop who brought down your luggage. There wasn't any sample case.
I carried it myself. I wasn't going to let a bellhop handle something as valuable as that.
Mm-hmm.
He just didn't notice it, that's all.
The desk clerk didn't notice it either.
Well, I stood in front of his desk when I paid up. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys want from me?
Just tell us what happened to the sample case.
I've told you the whole story.
There was one thing you left out.
What's that?
The truth. We continued to question Russell Liggins in his hotel room. He insisted that he'd been telling us the truth. We confronted him with the cab driver, the desk clerk, the bellhop. He refused to change his story. 1:05 p.m., we drove Liggins down to the city hall for further interrogation.
How much of the watch is worth?
Wholesale or retail?
Both ways.
About 4,000 wholesale, maybe 10 retail.
That's a lot of money.
Well,
Is
sure.
your boss upset?
Well, he wasn't very happy about it.
He's insured, isn't he? Well, come on.
Yeah, I guess so.
Don't you know?
Yeah, he's insured. He said so over the phone. He told me not to worry.
Mm-hmm. You didn't know about the insurance before.
What if I did?
Maybe we better talk to your boss. What's his number? Come on, fella. What's his number?
Well, what are you going to tell him?
That you've been handing us a line about being robbed?
Well, you think I robbed myself? Is that what you're getting at?
What else can we think?
Oh, you're crazy.
Where are the watches?
Somebody stole them.
Yeah, George and Paul.
Look, okay. It wasn't George and Paul.
Go ahead.
I made it up. The whole thing about them. You know, the fellas. I had to tell you something.
Sure you did.
Well, you want the truth, don't you? Well, you're getting it. Least you can do is try to believe it.
You make it kind of hard to buy.
Look, I went into that bar last night just like I told you.
Mm-hmm.
And the bartender was right. I didn't talk to anybody except the girl sitting beside me.
Yeah.
Well, she said she came in because she liked the music. And I was feeling kind of lonesome. I don't know anybody in L.A., so we started to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Said her name was Barbara. Didn't give me her last name because she was married and she wanted to keep things on a first-name basis. And that was all right with me. I told her to call me Russ.
Yeah.
She said her husband worked nights, one of the aircraft plants.
Mm.
And I told her about my job, that I sold watches. She kind of laughed when I told her.
What about?
Well, it was a big coincidence. Me being a watch salesman, she was planning to buy a watch. Told me the one she had was ready to give up the ghost.
I see.
Then she showed it to me on her wrist. A real cheap kind, just a piece of junk.
Yeah.
Well, she asked me if maybe I could get her a new one wholesale, and I said I might be able to arrange it. Then I suggested she come up to my room and look at the samples I had there.
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't up to anything. I figured we'd have a couple of drinks, but that was all.
Sure.
And then she kind of hesitated, said it wouldn't look very good. And finally she agreed. We went over to the hotel, and I had a bottle in my room, and I fixed us a drink. And then I showed her the watches. And she picked out the one she liked, but she didn't have any money with her, not enough to pay for it anyway.
Yeah.
Then I told her she could have it for free. You know, as a present.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't an expensive model, and I was going to pay the company back out of my own pocket. So she took off her old watch, and she put it in her purse. And she put the new one on.
All right, go ahead.
And then she said we ought to have a couple more drinks, you know, to kind of celebrate the present. But she offered to fix them. Well, maybe she put something in mine, or maybe they were just strong. I don't know. Anyway, I don't remember much after that.
What'd you do, pass out?
Yeah, I guess so. Next thing I knew, it was morning, about 6:30, and I'd fallen asleep on the bed with all my clothes on.
Yeah.
That must be why she didn't take my wallet.
All right, what happened then?
Well, I didn't think anything was wrong. I couldn't remember when Barbara left, but I blacked out before when I've had a little too much.
Yeah.
So I took a shower and I got dressed. And it was while I was dressing I noticed the sample case was gone. I looked everywhere for it.
You figure she took it, huh?
Now, who else could have?
Well, maybe.
Boy, you guys are pretty hard to convince, aren't you?
Well, why didn't you tell us about Barbara when you first came in here?
Well, I was thinking of my job.
Yeah.
Boss just promoted me a couple of months ago. I'm doing pretty good. I'm making fair money.
Is that so?
Yeah, if he ever found out I let some dame roll me in a hotel room, well, I'd be out of my ear.
All right.
And that's not all. I got a wife. Helen, that's her name. You guys married?
He is.
Well, then maybe he'll understand. We've only been married a couple of years, and Helen doesn't like the idea of me being on the road half the time. She's suspicious enough as it is.
Yeah.
So I did some quick thinking, come up with the story I gave you this morning, about George and Paul. Well, it really wasn't my own idea exactly. What I mean is that I was talking to a salesman at the convention the other day, one of the real old-timers. He told me how some guys had robbed him once when he was just starting out, and that's where I got the idea. Sort of switched it around to fit what happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't see where I was doing any harm. I never thought you'd be able to get the watches back anyhow.
Well, you didn't make it any easier for us.
Well, maybe not. But you don't know Helen. Why, she'd leave me sure as fate if this ever gets out.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to cause you any trouble. It seemed to make any difference what I told you as long as the watches were gone.
No, it makes a difference.
Yeah?
If we want to find out who took them. 3:15 p.m. We went back to the Greystone Hotel and talked to the manager. He gave us the home telephone number of the elevator boy who had been on duty the previous night. We called the boy, and he told us he remembered taking a passenger who resembled Russell Liggins up to the third floor sometime after 2 a.m. in the morning. He also remembered that Liggins had been accompanied by a young lady. He did not remember bringing the lady down, but he suggested that she might have used the stairs. We called the crime lab, and they went over Liggins' room. They found no useful fingerprints or other physical evidence. 5:15 p.m., we went back to the office. Liggins gave us a description of the girl known to him as Barbara. We showed him some mug shots, but he was unable to identify any of the women. 7:18 p.m., Frank and I again interviewed the bartender at the Green Hat Cafe.
Well, what did I tell you? Just a couple of questions, that's all. Next thing I know, you guys have moved in for the winter.
All right, Sam, now take it easy.
Have I got any choice?
You remember the girl Liggins was talking to in here last night?
So it's a girl now. I thought it was two guys.
Oh, come on, Sam. You mentioned her yourself.
I never figured you fellas believed anything I told you.
We want to know who she is.
Just a girl, that's all. She comes in once in a while.
She got a name?
Never introduced herself.
She live in the neighborhood?
I don't know.
Well, who does?
Look, this Liggins is a character. He's already taken you for one ride today. Now, why don't you get off?
We'd like to get in touch with her, Sam.
Get in touch.
You gonna help?
Well, how can I help you? I don't know her name. I don't know her address.
Yeah, well, maybe you can find out.
I busted my crystal ball just the other day.
All right. We'll send in a couple of uniforms to watch your joint for a few days.
You got any objections?
Well, sure. Cops make me nervous. Make the customers nervous, too.
Maybe you got the wrong kind of customers.
Well, what are you going to do? All right, talk to Jeanette.
Jeanette?
Yeah, the waitress. She's in the back room eating her chow.
She know the girl we're looking for?
Yeah, they're real buddy-buddy. Spend half their time chinning together. Never get any work out of Jeanette once the other one comes in.
All right, Sam. Thank you.
There's something been worrying me.
What's that?
Whenever you guys show up, I make up my mind you're not going to get any answers from me. I'm not even going to give you the time of day. And then what happens? I end up telling you everything you want to know.
Maybe you just like us, Sam.
Yeah, that's what's been worrying me.
Frank and I walked back into the kitchen of the Green Hat Cafe, and we interviewed the waitress, Jeanette Grover. She told us that her friend's name was Barbara Hooper. She also told us that she had no idea where Barbara lived.
Used to have a room over on Western, but she moved when she got married.
How long ago was that?
3 weeks. Oh, no, let's see. It's longer. Oh, they went to Vegas on a Sunday. It'd be 4 weeks next Sunday.
You're sure you don't have her address, huh?
No, she gave it to me once, but I didn't take it down. I wouldn't have no use for it.
How's that?
I don't get along with Tom.
Tom?
Yeah, that's Barbara's husband. Tom Kernan. Oh, say, that's right. I guess I made a mistake.
Ma'am?
When you asked me what her last name was, I said it was Hooper. I should have said Kernan now.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know why she ever married him. A good-looking girl like Barbara. She sure could have done better.
Mm-hmm.
Tramp. That's all he is. Well, I told her what she's letting herself in for.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got a record as long as my right arm. I've seen him come and go. When you work in a place like this, you can spot a rotten apple a mile off.
Mm-hmm.
I never figured he'd get into trouble this fast, though. What do you want with her?
Just like to get in touch with her, that's all.
Oh, now, I know better than that about cops. They want to get in touch. They mean business. You mind me giving you a piece of advice?
Not at all.
Now, don't blame her, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
He's to blame, whatever she's done. You check into it and you'll see.
Mm-hmm.
The gal gets married to a wrong guy, lasses up her whole life. Not her fault.
Except for one thing.
Yeah?
She married him. We went back to the office and ran the name Thomas Kernan through the record bureau. They came up with a package. Kernan had served time for burglary and was now on active parole. We checked with Fred Galloway at adult parole. He told us that Kernan's last known address was an apartment on Western Avenue. We drove out there. It's down here.
Yeah. Yeah, here it is.
Sure.
You all set?
Wait a minute. All right.
Al, what do you want?
Come on, open up.
Okay. Keep your hat on.
Police officer, stand still.
Who's moving?
He's clean, Joe.
Where's your wife?
Out.
Out where?
I don't know. She wasn't here when I came home.
We'll look around.
Be my guest. Always knew you guys rode as ex-cons. That ain't no surprise, but I didn't know you started picking on our wives, too.
No.
She's a nice kid.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start in on her. You can stay on my back. I'm used to it, but let her alone.
Joe?
Yeah.
I found this case in the closet.
The watch is still inside.
Most of them, anyway.
All right.
The heck's that?
You didn't know about this?
Of course not.
Yeah, sure.
I never saw him before.
Your wife did.
Hmm?
How soon will she be back?
I don't know.
We'll wait.
Up to you. Never saw those watches before in my life, I'm telling you the truth.
You bet you are.
Even if Barbara did take them, that don't make me guilty of anything.
No.
Stupid broad. Once you start making with a question, she'll spill the whole deal.
Thought you didn't know anything about it.
Maybe I knew she was looking for a setup. What does that prove? Some setup. Guy with a suitcase full of watches. Dizzy dame didn't even know they had serial numbers on them. What a brain. First job she ever pulled, she gets picked up.
Mm-hmm.
Time I was her age, I'd pulled half a dozen. You cops hadn't even tumbled once.
You're real bright.
That's the use. They won't learn. Tried to teach her the ropes. Gets picked up on her first job.
You know, you should have expected that.
Why? What do you mean?
Look who taught her.
The story you have just heard is true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On February 2nd, trial was held in Department 97, Superior Court of the State of California, in and for the County of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that trial. Thomas Carew Kernan was returned to the adult authority for violation of parole. Violation of parole is punishable by the term not served. Barbara Jane Kernan was found guilty of grand theft, 1 count. Grand theft is punishable by imprisonment in the county jail for not more than 1 year, or in the state prison for not less than 1, nor more than 10 years. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department.
Welcome back. I did like the part at the beginning where Smith was talking about this mystery movie and saying that he was bad at figuring it out, which you might think is kind of a weird thing for somebody who works as a detective. But solving movie mysteries and solving real-life mysteries are two different things. And so it was nice to have that little contrast. I do kind of wonder about the genesis of this crime. Because it's clearly implied by the end that the criminal's husband was the one who kind of inspired it. But she was the one who actually executed and planned it. So I kind of wonder, how she figured that the victim was someone that she wanted to talk to. or if she was just chatting up everybody till she found someone who was worth committing the larceny over. And you definitely do have to appreciate kind of the humor of this at the end, where the husband is criticizing her, yet he's the one who realized that they could not move the property she'd gotten because it had these serial numbers on it. And so it's a question of, why did you leave it around your house? So the police could just walk in and find it. At any rate, we turn now to listener comments and feedback, and Wes comments regarding the final line of the episode, the Big Father. Joe Friday does not play. And if you recall the final line of that episode, the criminal was going on about how the court had been unfair, and he'd considered him an unfit father because he'd spent time in prison. And he had reoffended in this episode, of course. And Friday essentially said that you proved him right. And I do think those are incredibly effective lines. I do like that setup, because I can enjoy some of the longer speeches Friday gives in the revived series in the 1960s. But some of these are just so effective because he'll just let people talk. You know, they'll go on for a minute or two, and he'll just, kind of be like, just those sort of active listening cues. Occasionally you can tell there's a bit of an edge on it, like, yeah, really. And he has the last word, and it's just a sentence or two. But because it's, it's so apt, it's really memorable and a good way to end the show. And I really do appreciate that, particularly about these programs from the 1950s. All right, I want to go ahead and thank our Patreon supporter of the day. Thank you to John and Christine. They've been Patreon supporters since March of 2018, currently supporting us at the Detective Sergeant level of $7.14 or more per month. Thank you so much for your support. And that will do it for today. Join us back here tomorrow for Public Domain Video Theater, and we'll have an episode of On the Law. And then we'll be back next Saturday, another episode of Dragnet, and on Monday, Box 13. In the meantime, send your comments to box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives, and become one of our friends on Facebook, facebook.com/Radio Detectives. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives, and become one of our friends on Facebook, facebook.com/Radio Detectives. Those who know me would never really consider me much of an athlete. And I don't have great speed. My style, movement, and walking has been described as lumbering. However, for the third time in the past 5 years, I'll be taking part in an effort to do 4 half marathons over the course of 5 weeks. That's 52.4 miles. Now, why am I doing that? It's to help out HIV/AIDS orphans in India. In general, these kids tend to face a really bleak future. But through 52.4, the organization that I'm raising funds through for this race, they are provided food, medicine, education, and hope for the future. It's a great cause, and and well worth all the effort that will go into the training and actual running of the races. You can support them and help sponsor me as I go the 52.4 miles to raise money for 52.4 at 524.greatdetectives.net. That's 524.greatdetectives.net. Well, now it's time for today's episode of Nick Carter, as we play another previously uncirculated episode. The original air date, December 17th, 1944, and this one is Strands of Murder.
What's the matter? What is it?
Another case for Nick Carter, master detective.
Yes, it's another case for that most famous of all manhunters, the detective whose ability at solving crime is unequaled in the history of detective fiction. Nick Carter, Master Detective. Today's curious adventure,
Strands of Murder, or Nick Carter and the mystery of the Grecian daggers.
And now for today's mysterious adventure with Nick Carter. As we commence today's story, we find Nick and Patsy strolling through one of the streets in the West 40s, in the heart of the theater district. It's mid-afternoon.
Oh, gosh, Nick, things certainly look different here in the theater district in the daytime, don't they?
True enough, Patsy. But if we only knew what's going on behind the walls of some of these theaters along here, we might find mystery and excitement right now, even in broad daylight. For instance, look over there in front of the Rizdale Theater.
What? Oh, yes, that's Riley's official car, isn't it?
Certainly is. There's one of his men on guard at the front door of the theater.
Oh, come on, Nick. Let's see what's doing.
Yeah, that's the theater where Rizdale's rehearsing his new super-colossal spectacle play, The Sacrifice, if I remember correctly.
Oh, that's right, Nick. Leo Frame's playing the lead. There are 3 leading women. Mara Daubre, Lita Lindman, and Bella Clare. Gosh, I'll bet there's going to be a super-duper when it opens.
Easy, Patsy. See if I know this man on guard here. No, I don't.
You can get inside, Nick. Just tell him who you are.
Maybe Riley doesn't want us inside.
Oh?
And we better play it safe. I've an idea. You wait here a second.
Okay. Good luck to you.
This'll be easy. We'll be saying hello to Riley in just a minute. Say, fella, is that your car out there?
Yeah. So what?
You mind if the kids let air out of the tires?
What? Say, if those kids are playing around with them...
Come on, Patsy, let's stroll in and see what Riley's doing here.
Right with you, Nick. Oh, gosh, Nick, isn't this the swankiest theater you ever saw?
Yeah. And the decorations cost Rizdale plenty.
Oh, they must have.
He built the theater, you know, to house his super terrific productions. Well, let's see what's inside.
Gosh, I'll say there's excitement in here.
Come on, let's find Riley and see what goes on. It's a wonderful scene you're directing here, Riley. Is this part of a new show?
Carter, what the devil are you doing here?
Patsy, quiet those women down, will you?
Oh, sure, I'll take care of it.
When did you tell me, Nick, how you got in here? I gave orders to...
I got in by the simple laws of cause and effect, Riley.
Cause and effect? I don't get it.
Very simple. I caused your man at the door to leave his post, and then I effected an entrance.
Somebody ought to teach you not to stick your nose in what it ain't wanted.
But now that it is stuck in...
Well, all right. But mind you now, this is my case, and I don't want no interference and no meddling. I don't want that place.
Ah, I take it there's been a murder. Who, what, and where?
Yes, the deceased is Leo Frame, America's sweetheart and fortune's gift to women. And the party who bumped him off...
Lita Lindman did it. Mr. Clare. Lie to her about Leo running around with her ease. Come on now, come on. You get
Well, Rizdale, did Frayne act so badly you had to kill him to teach him a lesson?
Oh, this is awful, Mr. Carter. I'm ruined. This will finish me as a producer. Everything I have in the world is sunk in this play. I lose my theater, too. Oh, it's the end of everything for me.
Oh, come on, pull yourself together, man. If rumor can be believed, you won't lose as much as all that. Haven't I heard that you have your stars insured against such things?
Oh, sure, the big stars, yes. Frayne's appearance in the show is insured for $50,000. So is Myra Dabre's. I've already put a lot more than $50,000 into this thing.
Tough, but you'll get over it.
I think what I'll lose in the play alone, that would have grossed $1 million with Frayne in the lead. The part was written for him. You can't go on without him.
I hope it's not as bad as all that.